Welcome to For the Love of Lincoln County, a podcast where we bring you everything on leadership, entrepreneurship, and community impact. Presented by the Lincoln County Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host, Jamie Wright of Wright Davo Insurance. We're coming to you from right here in Newark, Ohio.
Whether you're a job seeker or a business with staffing needs, Ohio Means Jobs Lincoln County is here for you. Our center is fully equipped and expertly staffed to help you with your employment and workforce needs. Stop in and see us at 998 East Main Street in Newark or call us at 740-670-8700.
Welcome, everybody, to For the Love of Lincoln County. I'm your host, Jamie Wright of Wright Davo Insurance. And if you are joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome. We are so happy that you're here. And if you're coming back to us, welcome back. Now, today I have Mr. Todd Alexander. Now, and I just want to lay down the topic before I introduce you, because
Sure.
I think it's really important that everybody understands where we're all coming from. Today's topic is, how do you take a dream and make it into a reality? And Todd Alexander is the owner and founder of the Newark Station. And I love that you put founder in your title, because it means that you've created something, right? You could be an owner of a
Could be
business,
an owner, yes.
but when you found something, you've created something. So
Correct.
I absolutely adore that. And when I was thinking of who would be really good for this particular topic, I really wanted to get you in here. Now, this is the first time we've ever had a conversation, but I've heard so many great things about you. And you have developed some really cool things. So I thought that this would be a perfect show for people to be able to learn from you. And just to give you guys some background here, Ragtime Band Development Company, owner and president, Newark Station, owner and founder, Continental Building Company, experienced executive, 34 years overall, 24 years as president, proven success building and managing $275 million per year organization. Ooh, that's big. I mean, all these things are very, and we talked earlier, like humility aside, this is a big deal. So if you're listening in and you're just meeting Todd for the first time, this is a great opportunity to learn something really big from him. And that's always my thing. I'm always telling people, never miss an opportunity to learn from really smart people. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate being here.
We'll get to Newark Station.
Sure.
Definitely want to get to that. But out of all of these things, and I just want to dive right in today, what would you say was your favorite career contribution?
So I think that's an easy question for me. When I was at Continental, we started a foundation, and it was called CBC Charities.
Uh-huh.
And in that process, we raised over $1 million to provide for the support, care, and for the education of youth.
Wow.
So that was our mission. And so that all the things that I've been able to do through my career that were charity related are my most favorite, right? So that CBC Charities, what we were able to do there through the support of all of our vendors and subcontractors and everybody, we raised a significant amount of money to support that mission.
That's incredible.
And through that, we also got involved in Franklinton, where for probably 20 years, I went and tutored on a weekly basis to children at the Avondale Elementary School.
Wow.
And that was pretty cool. But I also got through that process involved with the Ronald McDonald House, and worked with them, continue to work with them for over 20 years now. So from the development and construction of the initial house on the hospital's campus to the relocation of it across Livingston Avenue, the expansion of it, and now we're currently engaged in a $37 million capital campaign to expand it once again. So at one point it was the largest Ronald McDonald House in the world. It will be again as we add 80 more rooms to it. And that has just been a labor of love for me. There's so many incredible people. The heart of that house is fantastic. You can't walk through there and not feel love.
Oh, yeah.
You can't feel the spirit there, or you can actually if you don't.
Right.
Then you're missing something. And so the staff there is just off the charts great. There's 400 volunteers that make it work. Mm-hmm. It is just a wonderful, wonderful place to be.
I love this.
Yeah.
I have never shared this story before. So when I was in third grade, my dad was in a very bad skiing accident. And we were in New York.
Sure.
And he almost died. And he was in a coma for a month in New York. And it was me and my mom. And the Ronald McDonald House took us in and kept us there in New York. And it was one of the most positive experiences of my entire life.
Yes.
The family that maintained that property then and lived there above, they welcomed me into their family. They had a little girl about my age, and they understood it was a very, very difficult time in my life too. So I thank you so much for all your contributions with Ron McDonald House. I mean, that was a huge moment in my life. So
great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Going from like start to finish, right? When you finish a process and you look backwards in hindsight, like what is that for you?
Well, I would say first, you have to develop your idea, and you have to understand what that is and kind of vet it out fully. The process of turning that dream into a reality is you have to have several things that make you up that are important. One is, number one, first thing is hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, this process with Newark Station is nothing if it's not hard work.
Yeah.
So hard work is a big part of it. But then having the vision and being able to lay it out. And then, in this community here, what has been very helpful for me is to have the support of the community, right? So in Licking County, the city of Newark, all the people involved with this process have just been incredibly helpful. They're incredibly good at what they do, and they are very supportive. So I would say that and then the final thing, if I didn't say it before, is passion for what you do, right? You got to have a real passion to push forward, because so much of this process can be undefined. And it's your passion that carries you through those moments of uncertainty.
That's huge. Hard work, right? And passion. Sometimes I feel like those things get confused.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people say you just got to go out in there and be happy and do what makes you happy. And I think that people align that philosophy with passion, right? But then the hard work behind that is like, no, you need to make sure that you do the hard work so that you can implement what makes you happy in the future. I mean, when you think about, oh, I have this dream and I really want to do this, and what are the things that I need to lay down? It's, yes, of course you have to have this passion, but you also talked about hard work. And I think and that hard work is not just about the 9 to 5, right? It's
Correct.
not just about that. There's a lot of soul searching in those moments, I think. Was there a lot of that for you?
Was there? Is there?
Is there?
Is there?
Is it
Yes.
constant
It's
growth?
constant, right?
Right.
And the doubts creep into your mind, and you have successes, you have failures, you have setbacks, you have things along the way that can detract you from what your goal is.
Right.
It's that passion that carries you through, but it's also underwritten by a good vision, a good plan,
Right.
and hard work, right?
Yeah.
So when you meet those moments that you lay in bed and think, what am I doing? And
Right.
this is what I tell my children all the time. You get a good night's sleep, you wake up in the morning, you put your pants on, you go to work. That doesn't mean you just advance blindly into something. It's your plan, it's your vision. If you believe in that, then you go to work and get it done. So.
Do you think that, and this is just in that soul searching piece, because I know a lot of people are feeling this right now, but do you think that you need to have all of the knowledge and all of the understanding of this one thing to make that happen? I mean, for me personally, like, I have learned so much as I have gone and looked back and said, I probably shouldn't have done things that way. I mean, what does that look like for you, or how has that been for you, that process?
Well, I think for what I'm engaged in, there's a significant amount of experience and a significant
Right.
amount of knowledge
Right.
that you need to have. But you'll never know it all. And every single project, every single development is different. You encounter different challenges. And so you can't know it all.
Yeah.
But you have enough to underpin your effort.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And at some point, you know enough about processes and systems and people to navigate those waters. And so, I think, you do have to have that, but you'll never know it all.
Yeah.
And so you just keep moving forward, and you keep knocking hurdles down and until you get to where you need to get to.
I love that you said that, because I thought that's what you had said. And I think it's important for people to hear you say, that. And along this process, and specifically to Newark Station, we'll land there, but what was the greatest thing that you learned along the way?
I would just say the greatest thing would be that I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's a hard one, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many things when I think about what's the greatest thing I've learned, it's like, it's the individual process, but then I can think about a lot of things that I was like, oh, like I learned and like, maybe I didn't learn the right way. I can think about a lot of those. That's a really big question. And to circle back to just these personal growth developments, and again, this is probably one of these things that's really important for people to hear from you. What did you learn from the people around you? Like, because I know in my experience too, just going through anything, when you grow in a process, you gain and you lose people along the way, which I think is really, really difficult. When you grow and you develop and you change into a different person, you're going to lose people that don't follow you in that. What's something that you've learned from other people around you in that?
Well, I think I've learned in that process, there are people who either don't want to go along with you or are incapable of that, right? Yeah. So I know early in my career, I thought everybody could do everything if they just wanted it and tried hard enough.
Yes.
And you recognize through that process that there are people who don't want more responsibility. They're happy with where they're at. And then you discover that there are people who are just incapable of it. And so as the growth occurs, as things advance, people get left behind through that process, either as a result of their choice or as a result of their inability to move forward.
Yeah.
And I can think of specific examples of that.
No, we don't need to go there. Yeah. We don't want to. And this I think is personal for me too, but to hear from you, what was the biggest struggle that you might be able to help others prepare for?
Man, I'm just struggling with that. I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
It's the biggest struggle.
What's the, and it could be, it doesn't have to be necessarily personal, but it could be like, hey, it could be if you're developing something, what would be a struggle that somebody might come across it?
Well, I think the risk involved in it and what we do is significant, and that becomes a burden that is something that you have to be able to navigate and manage.
Yeah.
And so balancing those risks, because eventually we'll talk about Newark Station, but what is it that you're getting into, and what is it that you're leveraging to get into that,
right.
And how much of that is something that scares the crap out of you.
Yeah.
Right.
That's that moment that I'm talking
about.
That, that scares the crap out of you. Like, what is it that you're, willing to learn from that moment? Is
right.
That's big. That's huge. And I think it's good to hear you say that, because that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Those moments happen, and that's okay. And those are good moments for us to learn. And then, how do you measure success now? And is that any different than how you measured success in the beginning of your career?
Yeah, I would say, the beginning of my career, measuring success was just advancement, right? I mean, it was getting bigger and better and faster at what you do.
Yeah.
Climbing the ladder, doing bigger things. And now I would say I measure success in the accomplishments, that we're able to do. And so, that would be the difference.
Yeah. I love that too. And I had somebody recently ask me if I could answer some questions for them based on, they were in college and they were doing just a paper or something. And I said, yeah, sure. And the questions were about leadership, and the answers that I gave were different. They were more about, what do you think makes a good leader? And I said, well, to be a good leader, I think you have to start as being a good follower. You have to learn every step along the way to be able to get there. And, what are some attributes that have contributed to success? And I said, well, the ability to be vulnerable and to be authentic and to know who you need to learn from. And her response was like, wow, I didn't expect to hear those things. You don't think about the human side of success. You think about a lot of the monetary things and those benefits and the climbing of the ladder, which makes people successful. And I think it's different now.
Yeah.
The idea of success is different, and success now is a lot based on family and your time spent versus a currency. So I appreciate you saying that too. Speaking of success, let's talk about Newark Station. So I kind of want you to dive into it. Tell us about Newark Station, what it is, and who you serve.
So, if I had to say who I serve Jesus Christ. He's
Amen.
He's my Savior.
Amen. I love that.
I would start with that. I looked at this project. First, I was interested in the western portion of the project, which is vacant land. And, because seeing a vacant 3-acre site on the west side of the property, it's like, that's perfect, right? Unfortunately, they wouldn't sell me the 3 acres. They would only sell me the 10 acres. And so I was like, well, I don't know, let's go look at it. And, the 10 acres certainly has its challenges, but I fell in love with the 120,000 square foot building that sits in the center of the property. I mean, it is, number one, it's built like a tank. It was built in 1943. Just to give you a reference point, it's got a 450 pounds per square foot floor loading, whereas buildings today would be a third of that. So it is a significant building. And when you get to the second floor, it just knocks your socks off. It's got huge warehouse windows. It's got 3 sawtooth window bays, including a real long monitor in the center. So you get just an incredible amount of natural light inside the second floor, which will just take your breath away. So I thought, okay, well, let's see. The price was right, and so I thought, okay, this is going to be a challenge to redevelop 10 acres on West Main Street. And I would only do it if I felt like the city of Newark was invested in it and had a vision for the West Main Street corridor. Because without a vision for that corridor, then it's very difficult to redevelop the property. And so while the city didn't have a specific vision for it, they had a vision plan for the city. And so in reading that and looking through it, I felt like an arts district on West Main Street would be perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of presented that idea to the city, and I wanted to make sure that they would be agreeable to it because having a district will allow us to develop this property. So they were on board. So we just started working with the building and looking at it, and I, in that process, brought on Seth Stout, who is our co-founder and director of operations, and he has experience at 400 West Road Street in Franklinton.
Okay.
And also worked as the national director of placemaking for Urban Smart Growth. So he has experience with that, and so we together drew a vision for the building that I feel like the building has its own unique character to it, and we infilled that building with the vision. Didn't violate the building in any way. I mean, these things just worked out perfectly. So came up with a vision for that, and then recognized that the building that sits along Main Street, the one that you feel right on your shoulder as you go across the bridge, that building unfortunately had deteriorated to the point that it needs to be torn down. So for that reason, and also the reason that you combine those two buildings, you have over 250,000 square feet. You just can't redevelop 250,000 square feet here, right? So So the plan is to tear that building down, that one that sits along with, and retain the western portion, a couple of bays, in order to maintain that connector that runs between the buildings. So that, because I feel like that's an iconic feature of the site, right? So
I'd agree. Yeah.
you know, a lot of people worked there that still live in this community. They either work there, they know people who work there, or, you know, their grandparents worked there. So I think that the ability to do an adaptive reuse within this facility is big to the community, right? So, so we continued to flesh out the vision, and in the process thought, okay, well, let's start outside. Because we don't have the price of admission into the building yet, right? So came up with a plan for outside, which we call, you know, the whole project's called the Newark Station. So we came up with, phase one is the yard at Newark Station, right? And so I purchased the property in December of 2020.
Yeah.
And in about March finished the plan for the yard, and then started construction on it and got it done in about 7 weeks, which, it was quite a challenge. You know, while I've built many things, I had never built sand volleyball courts before. So, what really just was a little bit concerned about how those were constructed, and did a lot of research into it, and it has worked out perfectly. So we have like 18 inches of sand in them. We got gravel below it. We got drainage.
Beautiful.
And
They're
works
beautiful.
works perfect.
Yeah.
So, but in that process, for the summer for the yard, a couple of different things. First, just having activity there and having lighting, and you know, has started to change the area, right? And so, and the entire summer. Probably one of the greatest joys, not probably, definitely the greatest joy that I've had that I didn't expect to have, was meeting so many wonderful people. Right. And so the vibe there at the yard is fantastic. We have babies crawling in the sand, and we have 80-year-old people coming in for concerts. Yeah. So, you know, it's everything that I had hoped it would be. And so that's phase one.
I love that you talk about the community piece.
Yeah.
And that was my next question, and you answered it, was why Newark? But I mean, it's just, there's so much support from this community in a project like this. It's so welcomed. Anybody that hasn't been to the Newark Station, I mean, this is going to be, and I want to get to all of your phases, but it's like a social event center.
Yeah.
There's going to be so many things that are going to be happening there, and an expansion of kind of what you have been calling the arts. And I apologize. It's
the Renaissance Arts District. Yes.
Which is super cool. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
To be here in Newark.
But I could expound on why Newark, right?
Yeah.
So a couple different things. First off, I'm not a big city person. And you know, we did a lot of work in big cities.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd head west. I did that for, you know, 25 years. Get up in the morning and head west. And I always wanted to turn my attention to my local community here. And so this gave me the opportunity to do it. I'm not a big city person. I like small towns. I like understanding and exploring, you know, as these small towns that were once a vibrant area, right? That had manufacturing and had industrial and had retail and had office and had all these things. Had jobs, you know, and then they get hollowed out over the years, right? Mm-hmm. And so what does it take to restore those communities? And so Newark was perfect for that, right? And for 25 years, I had heard that the square was back, the square is back, the square is back. And for a long period of time, that wasn't true. But as I started to do my due diligence on the site, and I started to look around, and really understand the components that had been completed in the city of Newark, it became real evident real quick that the square was back. Yeah. And it is now a place from which good things can emanate, right? And so it's, you know, the northern corridor out to 16 has already been hardened. It's in general complete. And so now it's really important for the western gateway to the city to be transformed as well. So that was why Newark, right? It just was a great opportunity. I believe Newark sits on the cusp of some significant things that are going to happen. I think 5 years, certainly 10 years, definitely, it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful place that as far as opportunities, right?
It's coming this way.
It's coming this way, but it's also in many ways here due to the work of so many people that preceded this development of Newark Station.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
We might need to get those tissues out, Todd. And so I want you to tell everybody a little bit about what's coming. And I wrote down everything, and you don't need to go through everything, but we've got Earthworks Coffee, the Loft Apartments, the Lots, the Lookout Tap Room, the Glass House. What's next?
So, completed a first step to what's next on Friday when I sold the western 3 acres that I was originally interested in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, ironic.
And so what's going to be developed there will be fantastic for Newark, and it will be fantastic for Newark Station, and something that, just will keep and retain young people within this community. So that's the first step, right? And so now the next step is to complete all of the work necessary to build phase 2, which I'm hopeful we'll have here very, very, very shortly. My goal was to have phase 2 open by the time because the yard is seasonal, so we'll be closing that around the end of October.
Right.
And to have the second phase open by the time we closed phase 1 to maintain our momentum. But, as things work out in this process, sometimes the timelines don't line up. So, but we're moving as quick as we can. And the closing on that land, so just a general statement between what's going to be built on that 3 acres and what we're doing at Newark Station, there will be an investment in the city of Newark that will be over $34 million.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
Right. And one of the other, as we looked at what was possible here, how often do you get a chance to have 10 acres that are on Main Street that are 1,000 yards from the city center?
Right.
How often do you get that opportunity to have that kind of land that can transform a corridor?
Yeah.
So really felt like that was a big part of it as well. So
can you tell us what's in phase 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So phase 2 is Earthworks Coffee and Goods, and that's it's an expansive coffee shop. We'll be roasting our own beans there, and it will be an eclectic space that just normal coffee shops are 800 square feet, so this is 10 times bigger than that. We'll have a stage built in there for entertainment.
Oh, cool.
And we'll have a community room, a large community room. Our offices will be in there, which I'm really looking forward to getting an office, so I don't have to work out of my house, right?
In a coffee shop.
In a coffee shop,
we
right?
talked about caffeine before the show.
Yeah. And it'll be a dynamic space that'll serve as the gateway to the rest of the internal space at Newark Station. So
very cool.
It'll transform through the day from a coffee shop in the morning to a nightclub at night. It'll have a bar that, half of it will be dedicated to the morning, half of it will be dedicated to the evening. We have just a great side loading dock that we'll be able to, with a roof over it, that we're going to open up and make for outdoor seating. So it'll be a really dynamic space
Heck of a patio.
Yeah. And actually working with somebody to make the furniture for that right now. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So
also in phase 2 is 23 loft apartments, and so while Earthworks will open first, there are also within phase 2 we'll also have construction in the 23 loft apartments, and those should be available spring of next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, write that down. Spring of next year. I'm sure that'll be a hot spot.
Yeah.
All in all, so that's phase 2, and then you have phase 3. Is that the final phase?
No. Phase 3 will be the next step in the building.
Okay.
And so hopefully next summer, obviously phase 3 is contingent upon stabilization of phase 2.
Right.
And every time I get the opportunity to speak to the audience that we have, I say to them, if this is what you think Newark can and should be, then I need you to support this effort, right? And so we've had great support this summer. I expect that it will continue into phase 2. I think the apartments will be hot once once we're to the point to where we can start signing people up for those very shortly here. So hopefully earthworks will be done probably around the end of this year.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, and then the apartments will be spring of next year, and then so summer of next year we can start to gauge and talk about phase 3. And phase 3 will be incredible. We'll put in 20,000 square feet of art studios on the first floor. We'll put in a large event center on the second floor, taking advantage of all the natural light and what we can do up there. 20,000 square feet of office space on the second floor, and then a rooftop bar, which is going to be absolutely fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So there's already a structure built on the roof that is about 2,300 square feet. So, we're just going to take advantage of that, cut holes into the back of it so you have an indoor-outdoor seating area, and then we'll make a huge patio that sits on the northwest corner of the building that overlooks the yard, right, and overlooks all of Newark basically. So you'll have a great view from there.
Wow.
It'll be really, really cool.
Obviously the space is cool, but think about what it's going to do for the local economy. Just the amount of people that's going to bring in, the amount of young professionals that's going to attract. People are going to want to start families here. I mean, this is huge.
Well, it is a part of the kind of an adaptive reuse that will attract. So this is going to be something that young people are going to look at Newark and say, hey, we've got an arts component. We've got someplace cool that we can go and hang out. We can play sand volleyball. We can listen to music. We can
take our babies.
Take your babies. Let them play in the sand. I've got beautiful pictures of kids playing in the sand, which just is incredible. Yeah. And we bought sand toys for them to play in the sand. Yeah. So, and the opportunities for us to have events there just unlimited, right? So, we have trivia night, all the normal fare, but now people want us to have euchre night, and so it'll be a broad base of event planning that we'll have there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when all in all, I mean, what is your envisioning? Your dream for this to be phase 3 to be completed?
Phase 3 would be complete 3 years from now.
Okay.
And then phase 4 would be complete 4 years from now. And somewhere in that process, we will be tearing that building down, which will totally transform that site.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I think I was put in this position at the right moment, at the right time. As I said, based on the work that other people had already laid the foundation in the city of Newark, but also based on where the project was and what the buildings were. Because without this redevelopment of this site, so we talk about the opportunity to have 10 acres transform, but the alternative was 10 acres not transformed, which would have been devastating for a long time for this city, which would, just continue its downward process into blight, despair, and all the things that come with that. So, it's just a great moment in time.
Well, we're all lucky to be able to take advantage of it. So thank you.
No, it's so we talk about, why Newark? I mean, I didn't need to do this, but I wanted to do it. Right. And it's hard for me to convey that. And not for my ego at all, but because it's something that can truly change people's lives here.
Yeah.
And so when I saw that meant a lot to me. And so it's something that I became passionate about, right?
See, hard work, passion, hard work.
Underpinned by, knowledge and effort, right?
That's awesome. I love that story. It's also cool for me, and and this is just generally, but you know, and anytime I start something, it's like, hey, we're a part of history here.
Mm-hmm.
We're making history here. Yeah. This is history in the making, and we all get to watch this unfold. Like, this is super cool.
Yes,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So again, thanks for bringing it to us all, and thanks for being here.
Yeah.
And so, is there anything else that we should know or keep an eye out for from Newark Station before I ask you just 2 more questions?
Sure.
On today's show?
No, just come out and support us, because we are doing a tremendous amount of work here.
Yeah.
And we need, if the community doesn't support it, it's not going to be a success.
Right.
So
yeah, write that down. Give us the address though for people writing this down.
Yes.
Go ahead and give us the address.
325 West Main Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't miss it. And tell us obviously there's a Facebook page.
Yes.
There's a website.
Yes.
Newark Station.
Newark-station.com.
Okay. Write that down. Check it out. Seriously, like you guys have all of the plans, and you have all of the things that I wrote down here, what's to come and where it's going and stuff too. So make sure you follow that page as well and check it out. And before we end today, I do want people to have an opportunity to, what advice would you give someone that wanted to learn from you? And I know that that's a hard question, but what takeaway would you want someone that has learned from you to say, hey, this is what I learned from Todd, and this was an achievement of yours that you created? Is there one piece?
I think, whether they learn it from me or whatever, is to find mentors.
Yes.
That can help you grow, and probably more than one. You may need one spiritually, you may need one professionally, you may need one. Like, I had a friend of mine who was a mentor who taught me how to be a father, how to be a father to my children, how to be a better husband. And had one who worked with me for 25 years spiritually, who I can't, when we kicked off this our launch party, he spoke, he gave the initial prayer, which I wanted to have before we took any step forward, right? So it was the first thing that we led with. And then somebody to mentor you in business and leadership. That is what I hope people get from me who work with me. I also hope that they feel like they're part of a team, that we're all working together, and that I'm not beneath or above doing anything. Right. Yes. So I will do, like, I mow the grass out there.
Yeah.
And Saturday I hauled my mower out and spent 4 hours mowing the grass. So it's what it takes to turn this into a reality.
Well, I mean, that's huge in leadership too. Like, you wouldn't ask somebody to do something that you wouldn't do yourself.
Right.
So that's huge. It's the piece I was saying earlier about, who you learn from is important as well. So that's awesome. And then I ask most of my guests this, but do you have a life hack that you can share with everybody that they can take away from the show? Mine, I always say mine is the Kroger app, because it saves 2 hours of my life every week to click list. That's my biggest life hack.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
I don't know that I have a life hack.
So the super high performers will always say, I have a list of things, and I get everything organized, and I check things off, and that's important for the week.
Yeah.
But
one of the blessings that I've had through this process is to have my youngest son work with me.
That's
and
fun.
So he's worked with me for the last year.
Oh, yay.
And his name is Jacob, and he has it's just been wonderful to have that experience. About a month ago, I was driving to the yard, and I just thinking to myself, my heart was overflowing with love, and it was like, he's doing such a great job. But I'm trying to teach him, he's very good at the operations end of it. And it's like, hey, you have to take time and sit down to organize your plan.
Yeah.
In order to stay ahead of what's coming, right? And so, you got to start, creating a list for yourself of things that are important in the process that are going to hit us in 2 to 3 weeks or a month or longer, right? And so So yeah, maybe that's my life hack.
So I was just going to say, so Jacob is your life hack.
Jacob's my life
I
hack.
image that he helps you in a lot of different ways
does,
too. So
yeah.
see, everybody needs a life hack.
Yeah.
I need a Jacob too. Well, thank you so much.
You can't have them.
Okay. I won't take Jake. Well, I just need a Jake. We're just going to call
Right.
him.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
Jacob.
Right.
Thanks so much for joining us
Thank
today
you
and
for
taking the
having
time
me.
to be
Yeah.
here and digging in a little deeper with me today and talking about Newark Station. This is really fantastic. This is a great opportunity for everybody. And like Todd said, let's support this endeavor too. This is going to be huge for our community. Get out there, check it out if you haven't. Just go like their page too so that you guys can see what's coming. And when you want to get out there and when these phases finish, that we could all get out there and support those efforts too. So awesome sauce. Join us next month where we're going to be talking to Sarah Schwab of Metesic Distributing. And we're going to dig into strategies on balance. Now that's going to be a pretty, probably a lengthy show, I would imagine. So be sure to join us. Thank you for joining us on For the Love of Licking County. Until next time, you guys, stay safe.